Welcome to today's roll call episode. I'm Kenzie Koch with Guardian RFID, and today I'm meeting with Chris Riedmueller, product trainer with Guardian RFID, and we will be discussing what to expect leading up to and during your GoLive session. So Chris, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Kenzie.
So if you're watching this and you know that your team has a GoLive session coming up soon, you probably have a few things in the back of your head. Chris, can you give us a little bit of background of what they can expect?
Okay, so what you can expect when our trainers get on site is that we're going to do some sort of training. Depending on the size of the facility, that could be only shadowing training where we're working directly with the line staff, where we're just following them around on the shift, showing them how to use our product for documentation purposes. Or if it's a larger facility, we could do a day or multiple days of training. If we do a classroom session, it usually lands between 3 and 4 hours long. And we cover all of those basics, but always during an implementation, we are going to be shadowing the staff. We're going to make sure that when they're in their actual environment, they're going to be confident and capable of using all of the product.
Okay, so the kind of training process can kind of depend on the size of the facility and I'm sure the scope of the needs as well. What about a facility that normally is, well, it could be big, it could be small, but let's say the normal number that they normally have is lower, they're short-staffed. What happens then? Do they have to utilize a
Right.
classroom or have a trainer setup of some sort?
So in those instances, we work with the staff as best we can for the facility. Obviously, we don't want major interruptions. So if they would have to ordinarily pull staff off of shift in order to get them into the classroom, we will meet them at the shift. If they can maybe bring them in and train them in a classroom on their day off, absolutely, we can get a lot of people through that training very quickly, and then get them into their environment and make sure that everything's working properly and all the staff are confident.
Well, so yeah, that's a good point. You said even on their day off, you'll find a way to get these people properly trained, because my next point was going to be that exactly. Jails and prisons operate 24/7. So what happens if there's a day and a time the trainers decide to come in and that's when their training is, and there's a lot of people that are on their shift and miss it? What happens?
So within reason, we are here to support the facility, and we have done everything under our powers to get the staff trained where they need to be trained. If it requires us to work longer hours or work during the night shift, if that's what it requires, we're going to make it happen. Especially during the GoLive shadowing portion.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't care if I've got to meet a midnight shift at midnight and work with them for a few hours. If that's going to make them feel confident in using the product, I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes a whole village to make sure that everything flows smoothly, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and no job is above anybody. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a big piece of this whole process is making sure that everyone's comfortable using it. But one of the first stepping stones to being comfortable is understanding that a big change is about to happen. And I think change is probably one of the biggest things that staff are afraid of.
Correct. Among our team, we do kind of like to make the joke that there are two things that correctional officers don't like. It's change, and it's the way things are. And I want to shift that thought process, because there have been so many times that I've been reluctant to change it on my own. In my previous history working as a jail administrator, I didn't want things to change, but I trusted the process. I gave it a chance, and it turned out to be far greater, far better than had we stayed the course that we were on. Technology is definitely where we need to be headed, more technologically.
Right. It's part of the future, and people need to grasp that sooner than later. And as soon as they do, as they start to feel comfortable using these tools, how long after you think that go live day, once they have it in their hands, how long after that should they start to take that into account and stop using their previous method of logging?
So I like to say that there's a couple of different ways to look at it. One, you can work side by side for, say, up to a month. That, in my opinion, is a little bit long. When the facility I previously worked at implemented Guardian RFID. That was my thought as an administrator. I wanted to be able to trust that the data was going to be there, and that there wouldn't be any interruptions in our data. But then I came to realize that a month was far too long. I think a week or two is probably as long as you need to go, but ultimately it's just the the administration needs to be comfortable with the data flow. And then as soon as they're comfortable with that data flow, they need to go to single source logging everywhere possible. Because one of the hangups that they could find is if you're logging something in two different places, if the logs don't match, it can start to become a liability.
Mm-hmm. And do you think during your training session, one of the largest things that you try to share with people is that the Guardian RFID system helps prevent liabilities?
Absolutely. We share many stories that we've encountered. I try to pick up something positive or negative I learn from every facility that I go to and train. Either positive, negative, or both. And I try to share things that I've learned along the way, personal experiences, stories that we have heard. If a facility can do something a little bit better or make a slight shift, every facility has the same end goal. They want safety, they want security, they want the inmate head count to be correct. Everybody takes a little bit different journey to get to that point. So if we can guide them into a slightly different journey, then if it makes the industry better as a whole, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of guiding these individuals into the journey that we want them to succeed in, what are some of the biggest barriers to success that you have found in your experience?
Reluctance to change. That's been the biggest that I've encountered at this point. Is you're just going to meet a staff member that doesn't want to embrace the change. He doesn't trust the system. They've done things the way that they've done them their whole career, and they're on the backside. They're just looking at retirement, counting the days, and they don't want any big change to mess anything up. And sometimes it takes a couple of months. It might even take as long as 6 months. But if they embrace the process, they come back around, and they're always. I've had so many people come back to me afterwards and said, "I'm sorry I gave you so much resistance in the past. It's absolutely the best thing we've ever done."
Well, that must be really good to hear.
It's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
It's awesome to hear.
Well, Chris, thank you so much. I think all of these tools will be helpful for anyone that has a GoLive session coming up in the near future. If they have any questions, who should they reach out to?
They can reach out to greg.piper@guardianrfid.com or chris.riedmueller@guardianrfid.com, and we'd be happy to walk you through that implementation process.
That's great. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If there's any other topics you would like a roll call episode to cover, please leave your ideas in the comments section below. And until next time, get your team home safe.